Off the coast of the Iberian Peninsula, a wave of terrifying orca attacks on boats has sent ripples through the maritime world, leaving sailors and researchers alike stunned. These once magnificent apex predators, long regarded as non-threatening to humans, have recently turned their attention to vessels with alarming aggression. But now, scientists have finally unraveled the chilling truth behind these deadly encounters. The reasons, however, are far more complex and unsettling than anyone could have imagined. The first signs of a troubling shift in orca behavior appeared in 2020 when reports surfaced of a pod of orcas attacking vessels off the coast of southern Spain. At the time, it was seen as an isolated event, an anomaly in the otherwise peaceful relationship between humans and these majestic animals. However, over the next few years, these incidents began to escalate, culminating in a series of increasingly aggressive attacks on boats. In 2021, the attacks continued, with orcas frequently targeting rudders and hulls, rendering several boats immobile. These orca encounters, though disturbing, still seem like isolated events, until a particularly violent attack in 2023 on the sailboat Arcturus. As the boat sailed off the coast of Galicia, a pod of orcas surrounded the vessel, repeatedly striking the rudder and causing significant damage to the hull. Though the crew managed to escape unharmed, the attack marked a significant escalation in orca aggression. The damage was extensive, and the boat was forced to return to port for repairs. This incident made headlines, attracting the attention of local maritime authorities and the public. By 2024, the frequency and intensity of these attacks reached a fever pitch. The Strait of Gibraltar, a narrow passage between Europe and Africa, became a hotspot for orca aggression. In one notable attack on the Grazi Mama, a mid-size yacht, orcas struck repeatedly at the rudder, causing major damage and flooding the hull. Despite assistance from the Moroccan Navy, the yacht eventually sank. The crew was rescued, but this event marked a concerning trend in the behavior of these animals. Orcas, or killer whales, are highly intelligent and social creatures, renowned for their complex social structures and sophisticated hunting strategies. In the wild, they live in tight-knit pods, often consisting of multiple generations, and communicate with each other using a range of vocalizations. Their diet is diverse, including fish, squid, and marine mammals, with some orcas even targeting large predators like the great white shark. These apex predators are skilled hunters, using coordinated group tactics to bring down prey far larger than themselves. Despite their fearsome reputation, orcas have never been considered a threat to humans until recent years. Historically, orcas have had little direct interaction with humans in the wild. Their behavior toward people has been largely non-aggressive. Many indigenous cultures view orcas as symbols of power, respect, and wisdom. Orcas have been admired for their intelligence and strength, and there have been few reports of them posing a danger to humans in the wild. Their interactions with human vessels have typically been non-threatening, often merely showing curiosity or following boats without aggression. The recent surge in orca attacks on boats has left scientists and maritime authorities scrambling for answers. As apex predators with a reputation for intelligence and social complexity, these behaviors are both baffling and alarming. Various theories have emerged to explain this sudden shift, ranging from environmental factors to social learning and even territorial responses. Orcas are among the most intelligent creatures in the animal kingdom, capable of learning behaviors from each other through imitation. This trait has been observed in their hunting techniques, vocalizations, and even playful activities. Scientists theorize that the attacks on boats may have started with a single orca experimenting with targeting a rudder and discovering it to be rewarding or entertaining. This behavior could then have spread through the pod as other orcas observed and copied the actions. A historical example supports this theory. In 1987, a pod of orcas in Puget Sound began a curious behavior of balancing dead salmon on their heads. This fad spread quickly among neighboring pods. Similarly, the Iberian orcas may have adopted boat targeting as a social behavior, particularly among juveniles seeking stimulation or play. The deliberate targeting of rudders suggests an element of purpose, possibly driven by the orca's enjoyment of disrupting human activities. Environmental stressors may also play a critical role in the shift in orca behavior. The waters off the Iberian Peninsula have experienced significant changes in recent years, including overfishing, rising water temperatures, and increased boat traffic. These disruptions could be contributing to stress in the orca population, prompting them to react more aggressively toward vessels. Food scarcity is another possible factor. Overfishing in the region has led to dwindling fish stocks, potentially forcing orcas to compete more aggressively for resources. Boats, often associated with fishing, may have become symbols of this competition, leading orcas to target them in frustration. Additionally, noise pollution from increased maritime activity could disrupt orcas' echolocation and communication, further adding to their stress. Another hypothesis centers around territoriality. Orcas are known to defend their habitats and hunting grounds, and the rise in boat traffic in their territories may be perceived as a threat. The Iberian orca population, already considered critically endangered, may be especially sensitive to disturbances in their environment. Targeting boats could be a way for orcas to assert dominance over what they perceive as intruders in their space. This theory aligns with observations of other marine mammals. For instance, dolphins and seals have been known to exhibit territorial aggression when their habitats are encroached upon. The coordinated nature of the orca attacks suggests a calculated effort to ward off what they may see as a persistent threat. While most of the Iberian orcas are wild, the influence of captive orcas on their behavior cannot be entirely dismissed. Orcas held in captivity often exhibit behaviors not seen in their wild counterparts, such as aggression toward humans and other animals. When reintroduced to the wild, former captive orcas may carry residual stress or learned behaviors that could influence the pod's dynamics. Furthermore, the history of orca persecution by humans may contribute to their behavior. During the height of commercial whaling and later the marine park era, many orcas were captured, killed, or driven from their habitats. The long-term impact of these traumatic events may have shaped orcas' interactions with humans, even generations later. Finally, orcas' highly developed intelligence and problem-solving abilities may play a significant role in these attacks. By targeting rudders, the critical component for steering a boat, orcas demonstrate an understanding of how to immobilize their perceived adversaries. This strategic behavior indicates not just curiosity, but a level of planning and intent. Scientists suggest that this fascination with rudders could be linked to orcas' natural playfulness. Known as prop watching, orcas have long been observed swimming near boats, following the propeller wash. A young orca's accidental interaction with a rudder may have escalated into a behavior that the pod found rewarding or entertaining. Over time, this behavior could have evolved into targeted attacks as a form of engagement or amusement. In the wake of the escalating orca attacks on boats off the Iberian Peninsula, recent scientific research has begun to uncover key insights into this puzzling phenomenon. Marine biologists and researchers are now delving deep into orca behavior, tracking movements and analyzing patterns to better understand the cause behind these increasingly frequent and intense interactions with humans. Marine research institutes in Spain, Portugal, and nearby regions have been monitoring orca behavior with increasing urgency, particularly in areas where the attacks have occurred. Studies have been conducted on specific pods of orcas, with special attention given to the Iberian population, which has exhibited heightened aggression toward boats since around 2020. Using GPS tracking devices and underwater microphones, hydrophones, researchers have been able to gather real-time data on orca movements, behaviors, and interactions with boats in the region. These studies have shown significant changes in orca behaviors, especially in terms of their proximity to human vessels. One of the breakthrough findings of these studies is the identification of learned aggression within specific orca pods. Researchers have observed that certain pods, especially those off the coasts of Spain and Portugal, have been repeatedly targeting boats, a behavior that appears to be passed down between generations. Pods that have been previously exposed to boat traffic seem to have learned that interacting with these vessels can yield a specific response. The aggression toward boats is not seen as an isolated incident, but rather as a developed behavior that has become ingrained within these pods. This learned aggression is distinct from typical hunting behavior. Unlike orcas in the wild, who attack to capture prey or defend themselves, these orcas target the hulls and rudders of boats, often without any immediate signs of hunger or threat. Scientists have noted that the frequency of these attacks has increased, suggesting that the behavior is being adopted by new generations of orcas, further solidifying the idea of social learning. Another critical discovery involves the targeting of specific parts of boats, namely the rudder and hull. Researchers have observed that the orcas seem to deliberately strike these areas, causing significant damage. The intentional nature of these attacks, especially on parts of the boat essential for navigation, indicates a high level of cognitive understanding. This behavior appears to go beyond simple curiosity, suggesting that the orcas may be attempting to exert control over their environment, or even to communicate their displeasure with human presence. The repeated targeting of rudders, in particular, is a notable sign of aggression. Rudders are crucial for steering boats, and damage to this part of the vessel severely disrupts the boat's ability to navigate. Scientists believe that the orcas might be associating boats with a threat to their territory or ecosystem, and therefore may be attempting to neutralize these human intruders by rendering them immobile. Some researchers have speculated that the orcas' attacks could be a form of communication or an expression of frustration. With the increase in boat traffic and human activity in their traditional habitats, orcas may be experiencing a sense of disturbance and territorial intrusion. The boats, often seen as a foreign presence in their natural environment, may be triggering these responses as a form of behavioral release. Given the orca's social nature and advanced communication skills, these attacks may also be a form of social bonding or cohesion within the pod. Pods that have engaged in such behavior might view the attacks as a shared activity that helps them strengthen group dynamics. In this sense, the orcas could be attempting to establish their dominance in a rapidly changing environment that is increasingly influenced by human presence. Supporting the theory of learned aggression is the growing number of recorded attacks and sightings in the Iberian region. Between 2020 and 2024, over 670 attacks have been documented, a staggering number that highlights the alarming rise in such incidents. These statistics are part of an ongoing monitoring effort by marine biologists and environmental organizations. Researchers have noted a pattern of increasing frequency in attacks, particularly between the months of spring and summer, when boat traffic tends to be heaviest in the Strait of Gibraltar and along the coastlines of Spain and Portugal. The attacks occur in clusters, with certain pods engaging in repeated encounters with specific boats, further supporting the idea of learned behavior that has become a cultural trait within these pods. The orca attacks off the Iberian Peninsula have not only shocked the scientific community, but have had significant real-world effects on sailors, fishermen, and the local economy. As these incidents continue to escalate, the consequences are being felt across various sectors, from maritime safety to tourism. Sailors and fishermen whose vessels have been damaged or sunk in these attacks have shared their harrowing experiences. One fisherman, Antonio Garcia, recalled his terrifying encounter with a pod of orcas off the coast of Portugal in 2023. "At first, we thought they were just playing around the boat," he said, "but then they started ramming the rudder and the hull. The sound was deafening, and the boat began taking on water. We barely made it to shore." Garcia's boat was one of many damaged in the area, highlighting the sudden, unpredictable nature of these attacks. For many, the psychological toll is just as severe. Sailor Maria Lopez, whose boat was severely damaged in a similar attack, noted, "We've always respected orcas, and never in a million years did I think they would do something like this. It's hard to shake off the fear. Every time I go back on the water, I keep looking over my shoulder." The financial consequences of these attacks are far-reaching. Many boat owners have faced significant repair costs, as the damage to rudders and hulls can be extensive and expensive to fix. For smaller, privately owned boats, this often means hefty out-of-pocket expenses, especially if the damage exceeds the cost of basic insurance coverage. Insurance claims have surged as a result of the attacks, with some insurers now reevaluating policies for boats operating in these high-risk areas. For example, a prominent insurance company that covers vessels in the Iberian region reported a 30% increase in claims related to orca attacks since 2020. This surge in claims has led to increased premiums for boat owners, making it more expensive to operate in these waters. Local economies reliant on marine tourism have also been affected. Coastal towns that depend on recreational boating, whale watching, and sailing tourism have seen a decline in bookings as news of the orca attacks spread. Local businesses, from sailing tours to restaurants, are struggling with the uncertainty, as tourists choose to avoid these waters due to safety concerns. According to the Iberian Marine Tourism Association, businesses in the region have reported a drop in revenue by as much as 15–20% since the attacks began to escalate. In response to the growing threat posed by orcas, maritime authorities have been forced to adjust their approach to boating safety in the region. New guidelines have been introduced, advising boat operators to avoid known orca hotspots, especially during the breeding seasons. In some areas, speed limits have been enforced to reduce the risk of collisions with orcas, and boaters are encouraged to install additional safety equipment such as reinforced hulls to withstand potential attacks. Authorities have also increased patrols in certain regions, particularly near the Strait of Gibraltar, where orca activity has been especially intense. Maritime officers are now monitoring orca movements more closely, using drones and sonar technology to track the pods and provide early warnings to vessels operating in these areas. The recent wave of orca attacks on boats has sparked a wider conversation about the ethical treatment of orcas, particularly in captivity. For decades, orcas have been held in marine parks and aquariums, where their behavior and well-being have been scrutinized and often criticized. The ongoing shift in orca behavior, especially their newfound aggression in the wild, raises significant questions about the influence of captivity on their actions. Orcas, known for their intelligence and complex social structures, are often considered the most majestic and feared creatures of the sea. However, in captivity, they have been subjected to conditions that have sparked global outrage. Critics argue that these animals, held in small tanks for entertainment purposes, suffer immense physical and psychological stress. Their instincts, such as hunting, socializing, and migrating long distances, are restricted. In marine parks, orcas are often isolated from their families, denied the opportunity to form meaningful social bonds, and exposed to artificial environments that deviate drastically from their natural habitats. Institutions like SeaWorld have faced mounting pressure due to the negative effects captivity has on orcas, sparking debates about how these experiences might influence wild populations. The stress, isolation, and frustration faced by captive orcas often manifest in aggression, raising concerns about whether similar patterns could emerge in their wild counterparts. As researchers continue studying these unprecedented attacks, one thing is clear: understanding orcas' behavior is more urgent than ever. But what do you think? What do you believe are the reasons orcas are attacking boats? Let us know down below. And if you enjoyed this video, watch our next one shown on screen.